This is the all-new KEF Concerto Meta. Is this new KEF speaker gonna change my mind about KEF speakers? No, it's not, because it confuses the shit out of me. Sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let's talk about the KEF Concerto Meta. Big thanks to Audio Advice, because they sent these to me. This is the KEF Concerto Meta. It's a three-way speaker, a new speaker from KEF this year. I was very excited to get it in. I have had what you could call a complicated relationship with KEF speakers, because on one hand, I love the KEF Q150. I like the KEF Q350. I did not like the KEF LS50. I did not like the KEF LS50 Meta. Many people in the comments said you need to get the R3, and the R3 is kind of like a KEF LS50 with a woofer on the bottom. So when I found out that this is coming out with a big old woofer on the bottom, I thought maybe this is it. Maybe this is the KEF speaker that will bridge the gap between what I feel are the best sounding speakers, i.e. the most affordable ones, to the ones that I just don't understand in my head. Now, I get it. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I understand that. But listening to these speakers helped me to understand a little bit more about why I don't like these speakers. And just because I don't like these speakers doesn't mean that you shouldn't. If you are new here, please consider subscribing. This is the only way that I make myself feel good, is by watching people subscribe to my channel, because I'm super insecure on the inside. And I need external validation. And I know 60% of you watching aren't subscribed, so just hit it right down there. Hit the subscribe button. When I do videos, a lot of times while I'm doing the listening, the evaluation process, I am talking to some of my patrons back and forth, actually one in particular. And I feel like it's a nice way to iterate on a speaker, because I'm very open and honest about them and what I'm hearing at any given moment. Now, bear with me, because this is going to sound all doom and gloom, and it's really not, because I think the issue is not with the speaker. I think the issue is with the chief audio man. And it's very difficult to divorce my personal tastes from a speaker video or review or walkthrough or whatever you want to call what I do. Because I don't like these speakers. I don't like watermelon either. I don't like professional football either. But I get there's a whole bunch of people out there that like to eat watermelon, maybe while they're watching football, maybe while listening to their KEF speakers, and it doesn't make them wrong. So in today's video, I'm just gonna talk about what I hear when I listen to these speakers, because there is a lot to like. There also is some things that I don't like. The KEF Q Concerto Meta, okay, lots of names there, comes in at $1,300 a pair, which is $700 cheaper than the R3 Meta. Actually, it's $900 cheaper, because the KEF R3 Meta are coming in at $2,200 a pair, okay? So you're saving a lot of money. They look similar, right? They have a woofer on the bottom, concentric, mid-range, and tweeter on top. 3/4 inch vented aluminum dome tweeter, 4-inch mid-range driver. Tweeter and mid-range use KEF's EQ technology. 6.5 inch aluminum cone bass driver. Frequency response, 48 hertz on the bottom, up to 20,000 hertz. This speaker has no issues on the bottom end. Sounds awesome from a bass standpoint. Sensitivity, 85 dB. Impedance, 4 ohms, which means you're gonna need some oomph to drive this speaker, and that is kind of a reoccurring theme with KEF speakers. LS50 needs a lot of power. Q Concerto Meta needs a lot of power. I had these hooked up to the Cambridge Audio EXA100. It is a $2,200 Class AB integrated amplifier. Beefy, powerful, a lot of current, big old transformer. So that should be enough to drive these speakers. And I would say it was, because I was getting smacked in the face, like when my wife gets the crazy legs at night in bed. She kicks me in the face. Doesn't feel very good. I had the Weem Ultra running streaming duties with a optical digital output from the Weem Ultra, so I was using the DAC inside the EXA100, okay? Okay. Plenty of power. As far as soundstage and imaging goes, this speaker's really good. I've never had an issue with soundstage and imaging from a KEF speaker. The LS50, the Q150, the Q350, the Q Concerto Meta all do a great job of not only forward to aft imaging, but also lateral and vertical imaging. Does a good job. I always feel like there are instruments, performers separated out in space. I feel like the soundstage goes beyond the width of the speakers. Great job. They do a really good job. And maybe it's because of the concentric UniQ something technology. That could be it, right? Sure. One of the criticisms I've had of KEF speakers in the past, especially the LS50, is there is no bass. You get 3/4 of a speaker. You don't get the bottom part. But that is not an issue with the KEF Q Concerto. There we go. KEF Q Concerto Meta. These things kick like a mule. Wow. It's a song by Beck. Wow. It was on, actually it's been on 2 commercials. It was on like a toothbrush commercial. Wow. Yeah, and then it's I think on a it's on a Oklahoma casino commercial now. Tons of bass on that song, and I was really surprised because I was listening about 75 dB, which is not super loud. It's not super quiet either. I feel like 75 dB is Goldilocks zone when it comes to SPL, which means how loud are you listening to your speakers. A lot of times when I'm listening at 75 dB SPL, there's not a lot of bass on the bottom of a lot of speakers. This thing was super dynamic, and I really appreciated that about it. Great job, KEF Q Concerto Meta, for being dynamic. Killing Strangers by Marilyn Manson, also very palpable. Punch you in the face, kick you in the stomach, throw you down a flight of stairs. That type of bass. And it wasn't sloppy either. So I really liked it. The problem is the mid-range. I don't understand the mid-range. I just don't get it. Simultaneously, I feel like the mid-range is a little bit honky, while also being flat and slightly veiled all at the same time. I had to play around with some EQ a little bit, and this is the EQ that I ended up landing on. So I pulled back 250 hertz, 1.2 dB, and then I pulled down 2K, 1.1 dB, and I pulled down 4K, 1.3 dB, and then 8K up 2.3, 16K up 3.9 dB. So I felt like, and we'll get into this in the treble, but I felt like there was definitely a lack of air. And I also felt like the mid-range was strangely pushed forward and then pulled back all at the same time. I felt like 250 hertz was just a little bit too forward. Too much on the bass, which we're talking really low mid-range at 250 hertz. If not high bass. Not really sure what was going on. But what I don't get about this speaker, the KEF LS50, is the mid-range tonality. I don't feel like it's natural. I feel like it leans a little bit aluminum-y. It sounds like an aluminum dome tweeter. It sounds unnatural. It doesn't sound like a voice. It doesn't sound bad, necessarily. It just doesn't sound natural to me. Now, a speaker that I like that I don't necessarily think sounds natural all of the time is the Emotiva XT1s, XB2s, the previous generation. I feel like they're a little bit cool in the mid-range as well, but their translation of the musical sound is more pleasing to me. Not saying I'm right and you're wrong if you like the KEFs. I'm just saying it's different. I don't particularly love aluminum dome tweeters. That's just my personal preference. And I feel like I can hear a lot of the aluminum dome flavor coming through not only the mid-range, but especially the top end. One thing I don't think is good is the treble, especially with cymbals. I feel like cymbals are truncated. I feel like they are too brief. I feel like there's not enough clarity. I just feel like it's a shh, and then it's it. Shh, boom. This is probably the only part of this speaker that I wouldn't get into an argument with anybody over it, but if someone said, oh, this is great on treble, especially with cymbals, I would have a hard time understanding it. Maybe I could listen to it in their system or something, but cymbals just didn't sound good. And generally speaking, an aluminum dome driver, aluminum dome tweeter can do a really good job with metallic instruments, especially bells, cymbals, snare drums, even though that's not metallic, but with the rim hits and stuff like that. Usually it sounds really good, really convincing. I also felt they were slightly sibilant. Okay, so that's fine. We get it, Randy. You don't like this speaker. Let's talk about why I don't think that matters and my final thoughts. In the comments, I want you to put down something that you don't like that everybody else likes, or that most people like. Maybe it's a movie, maybe it's food, maybe it's a car, maybe it's whatever you want it to be. Because I am in this position with most KEF speakers, or at least the more expensive KEF speakers. I don't get them. I'm not saying that's a problem with KEF. Obviously it's not. Because not only are they selling these speakers, but there's other people out there that are doing reviews, respected people doing these reviews that like these speakers. And I'm not arrogant or narcissistic enough to say that my opinion is right and theirs is wrong. I'm just saying our opinions are different. I am not the paragon of hi-fi reviewing. I can only give you my opinion based on my preferences, based on my experience. And at this point, I do have a fair amount of experience listening to a bunch of different KEF speakers. The Q Concerto Meta reminds me of the ELAC Unify 2.0 tonally. I feel like that speaker had a lack of air on top. I feel like the Q Concerto Meta is almost like someone on purpose took away all of the air from this speaker, because everything sounds good right up to about 8K. And then there's nothing. At least I can't hear anything. So all of the air, the ambiance, the sense of feel, the sense of space and size of a live performance as far as the room that it was recorded in, I don't hear it on the speaker. Like, I feel like someone took that and deleted it. I don't particularly like that. This also reminds me of a KEF LS50 with a lot of bass, which is good because that is part of that speaker that I thought was just absolutely missing. And the Concerto Metas coming in at $1,300 is right around the same price as the LS50. I would take this speaker all day long over the LS50. Now, the LS50 is built way better than the Concerto Meta. Oof, I almost dropped it. One of the first things that I noticed when I got this out of the box is how it didn't feel as premium as the price. The enclosure, the covering of the enclosure, the wrap, or whatever you want to call it. It's built well, it's pretty solid, it's fairly beefy, it's fairly hefty, but the flange right here and the covering just doesn't feel like this is a $1,300 speaker. If you hold this and then you hold the Wharfedale Linton, and there's a $200 price difference between these speakers, there's absolutely no comparison. This just feels cheap in comparison. binding posts here on the back. They're fine, they're good, but these feel like they're on par with $400 speaker or $500 speaker. So I think the build quality is substandard for the price. The sound, really up to you whether or not this is a good speaker. I think it's doing a lot of good things on the bottom end. I think it's doing some good things in the mid-range. I don't think it's doing a lot of good things on the top end though. I wanted to love this speaker. I really did. I felt like this might be the first KEF speaker that I could really kind of get behind outside of the Q150. The good news is I have the small, most affordable two-way speaker here too, which is probably going to go up today after I put these back in the box. I'm not trying to throw shade at KEF. I'm not trying to say this is a terrible speaker. I'm saying that this is a speaker that I don't understand, and I don't understand why people love it. But I want to understand. So put in the comments why I'm wrong about this speaker or the LS50 in general. Maybe it's my music too. I will say that Miles Davis, So What, did sound really good on these, but the cymbals still seemed off. The cymbals on Centerman, the hi-hat still seemed off. They didn't sound natural to me. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you want to check out the speakers that I really did like this year, check out this video here or here. It is the 2024 Speaker of the Year Awards for the Cheap Audio Man channel. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe.